Good morning. Sal Capaccio joins us, Jeremy and Joe, here on WGR on this Thursday morning. The Bills will head off to Chicago today to plan for their practice with the Bears tomorrow and then a game on Sunday. Of course, we have the James Cook news. We got Sal on yesterday for 2 minutes just to say, like, hey, it happened. So, Sal, we got your instant reaction. Now we've got the, 24 hours later, everyone's had a chance to kind of digest it. So we'll get into that and practice happenings. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, guys. Yeah. Now we had a chance to kind of just digest everything, as you said, and, saw James Cook out at practice, heard from Brandon Beane yesterday right away, heard from James Cook, and, now things start to fall in and analyzing the contract. We get the numbers. I know Spot Track tweeted out some of the numbers yesterday as well. So there's a lot to digest here, but at the end of the day, I think, just over 24 hours later here when this happened is the waters have kind of calmed, right? Yeah, it's the story. But the Bills are going forward. They have their team. There's no drama. And it's time to play football. I think really kind of that's the message here from everybody involved.
Sal, at your piece at WGR550.com, one thing you tweeted out a picture of this. Cook practicing, the Hard Knocks crew nearby. Mm-hmm. And it kind of occurred to me, we thought Hard Knocks might chronicle this hold-in, and they still might. Now that we actually have a friendly ending, now we might see a little behind the scenes of Beane's side of the story and Cook's side of the story and whatever. Like, just some more of it might come because now there's a celebration at the end of the road for both these sides.
No doubt, and you're right, and thank you. I thought it was really interesting watching that because I tweeted out some video, and it's at my story. It's also at my X feed at Sal Sports, and I'm watching him stretch, and the first thing I notice is all the cameras near him while he's stretching. And I've said, and this is true, Hard Knocks is there. They're very noticeable. They're not intrusive, and I don't think they're being intrusive here either. You could say they're kind of off to the sides, but here's James Cook stretching with 80-something other guys. And there's a boom mic right there. There's a camera on his right. There's a camera on his left. And I thought that same thing, Jeremy, which is, what are we going to get next Tuesday? It's the first practice back. I guess I wouldn't say he's mic'd up. Maybe he is, but he's got the boom mic there, so probably not. But there's going to be probably sound and video of James Cook back on the practice field with his teammates. Are they giving him ribbing about, money and, hey, you're buying dinner and things like that. You know what I mean? So I just think that that's going to probably be part of the storyline because, as you point out, it's a happy ending and everybody's going to be kind of, jovial about it.
So how do you feel like the contract structure ends up looking to you? Like what the cap hits are? We knew it would be a little bit lower this year. It's not like a 5-year deal, but he's signed now for 5 more seasons. Mm-hmm. But I was playing around with that earlier. Like really, it's 3 years for sure, and then they can kind of get out of it without changing it. However they would do that. $3 million in 28 and $4 million in 29. If in 3 years something happened that they wanted to move on, he's signed for 5 years, but really anytime after the next 3, it feels like they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I always felt that would probably kind of happen like that because that's just the nature of, it's not not this contract and this player specifically. It's just the nature of NFL contracts. You look at anybody who signs extensions for 4 or 5 years, you're generally looking at, a couple years down the road, there's some way the team can kind of move on and not have to take on a huge dead cap hit. That's probably going to be the case here. It is important to note, and I'm glad you said it, Joe. He is under contract for 5 years, not just 4 years. You can move money around, and the Bills were able to do that and give themselves some cap relief this year, by the way. And then his cap, excuse me, according to Spot Track at least, his cap hit next year it's only 5.8. That's really kind of what it was this year. So you're really kind of keeping that in line, even going next year for his cap hit. And then it really balloons to $13 million, 13.5. And that's when you have to start making decisions on where you are with the timeline of this with James Cook. So, yeah, there's going to be some things down the road where the Bills are going to have to think about it and revisit. And look, if the best scenario is James Cook continues to be what he's been for this football team, and you're like, okay, we're really good where he's sitting because he's not making extraordinary money at the time they sign him. He's getting what is he the highest paid? He's the what right now? Average per year. How many running backs in eighth highest paid running back per year is it right now?
I think that's right.
At the average.
Yeah,
I think that's right. But you guys know what I mean. By the time you get to a couple years down the road, he might be 15th, and maybe you could live with that a little bit more. So. Look, I think James Cook's side did a good job here. They did. For all of the things that we say about the agent and James Cook and how awkward this was and how, to me, I don't think they handled it, really quite well overall. I think at the end of the day, they did a good job for James Cook. He got paid. And it wasn't the $15 million that was floated out there, but it's a nice paycheck. And, he deserved to get a nice raise. But I think the Bills also did a nice job here to think about down the road how they're not completely crippling themselves while keeping the band together here, which was already together, not upsetting that. And next year, again, not really having to worry about this because it's not some balloon payment next year. And then let's revisit it after 2026, 27, and going into 28.
Brandon Beane talking yesterday, Sal, most interesting things that he had to say. Was one of them, I was a little curious in him saying that, like he had been holding in, and did he not say that to get back to the table, like we're going to need you to practice?
Yes, he indicated that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I asked him yesterday. The question was essentially, and I can't remember exactly how I asked it, but that's what I wanted to know, Joe. Sean said some things had changed, right? Remember that? And I don't take that as Sean meaning the contract, but maybe it was more because he's the head coach. He doesn't deal with that part of it. And then we saw James on the field. And then the contract came down 24 hours later. So what I was curious about was, okay, did you know that was happening? That was kind of my question. Like, did you know when he stepped on the field, like, okay, like we're going to get this done, so get on the field and, let's just kind of get it over the finish line. And his answer kind of indicated, well, it was basically, we need you on the practice field if we're going to get this done. Like, you need to practice, and then we're going to do it. He said it was good faith. That's the words he used, good faith. So to me, I interpret that as saying, hey, we're pretty close here. I promise I'll work my butt off tonight to get this done for you, but you got to also get on the practice field with your teammates because it's go time for football. That's how I interpreted that answer.
Sal Capaccio with us on the West Her hotline. So, Sal, like at the position now, we're not talking about it at the draft. I mean, Ray Davis's contract, Ty Johnson's. Right. I mean, this is their running back room, right, for 3 years, 2 years at least.
Yeah, what's Ty Johnson? I think Ty has just this year, right? I think Ty might have signed a 1-year deal again. Let me just kind of look to make sure.
I thought his was 2, but I don't have it in front of me.
I'm going to look at it right now, guys, to be honest with you. He is, 2 years. So you're right, Joe. So he's got, at least for another 2 years. Ray Davis going into his second year. And then, obviously he's got a rookie deal, gives him 4 years. That's the other thing about this, which is the Bills feel very, very comfortable with their running back room. They feel very comfortable with their skill sets, how they offset each other, and going forward here for the foreseeable future. So, we're not going to be sitting here having a discussion about drafting a running back early, short of, unfortunately, if something were to happen to one of these guys and they get injured or something like that, obviously. That's not going to happen. But I think the Bills feel very comfortable about where they are with their running back room. And I do not get – I've had this question asked me a few times, and maybe you guys have talked about it. Like, does this contract change James Cook's usage? My answer is no. Like, the Bills, I think that would be, like, foolish to say, oh, we're paying you more now, so you got to be on the field more. Like, if he can – the reason why James Cook could be on the field more is because James Cook could be better at pass blocking, right? I mean, that would be the reason. Not because you paid him more. That's not how you operate. The reason he's getting the money he's getting is because he's good at his role. He's really good at how he's doing what he's doing right now. Now, if he gets better at a few things, sure, you could see some increased usage, but the cause and effect there is not going to be simply because you're paying him more money, you need to see him on the field. That would be hurting the offense. Why would you actively hurt your own team if you don't feel comfortable with him but you say, oh, you need to do it now because you're being paid more money? That wouldn't make sense to me.
Sal Capaccio on the James Cook contract extension. They did practice yesterday, Sal, and the injury report, I don't know, by like preseason standards or whatever, build-up standards, it's about the same as it's been. A good number of names on this. The difference, I think, now is they're really shorthanded at receiver going into this joint practice end of this preseason game.
Obviously, Khalil Shakir is still out. Curtis Samuel had been working off to the side with trainers. He did once again yesterday, but he has not practiced. Elijah Moore was out yesterday. Tyrell Shavers was out yesterday. That's 4 wide receivers down, guys. And I'll also add, Joshua Palmer yesterday had a big wrap, like from top of his thigh all the way down to his ankle, and then he had a sleeve over the wrap. Like I say big wrap, but you could tell it was kind of wrapped and it was pretty thick. But I'm going to give that guy a lot of credit because to me, he did not look like he was 100%, and he did not take a rep off. He practiced, and he practiced hard, and he looked good. Like, I was really impressed by Joshua Palmer yesterday. Maybe just his toughness. Like, he was just practicing and catching balls, and it didn't matter. And you could tell when he came off the field, like, he was not 100%. And, people could say, and I had people go, well, why are they practicing him? Well, if he feels, if the trainers feel that he's not going to do any more get more injured, and he feels fine, then you can do that, right? That's a conversation you have. I'm just making the point that, like, he's also a little bit banged up, and he was out there and he was doing his work. I don't know what that means for Friday. Not sure yet. We'll find out. Does that mean that there's no Elijah Moore or Tyrell Shavers? Does Curtis Samuel come back? We know you're not going to get Khalil Shakir. So maybe you get a bunch of these guys back. Maybe you don't. They are dipping deeper into the wide receiver depth chart. That's for sure. It's giving more guys opportunity, obviously. But right now, they are kind of patching it together and having to put guys out there that maybe a few weeks ago you wouldn't expect here in week number 2 of the preseason.
Yeah, Sal, it's kind of interesting. Like, half the reason, I know you're asked a lot, hey, tell me about the camp that Elijah Moore has had or the camp that Josh Palmer has had. And the answer has been almost that everybody's had a quiet camp except for Shavers, and even he's hurt right now. So, like, it's not even as if these injuries are giving certain guys the opportunity to step up, other than Keon Coleman being consistently out there. Like, he might be benefiting the most in terms of chemistry because he's the guy that's been out there all the time.
Yeah, and I'll add in, I know not wide receiver Jeremy, but like, I thought Dalton Kincaid had another nice day. I think Dalton Kincaid has really put together, he's stacking really good days on top of really good days, right? It just kind of really felt like that. More so on Tuesday than Wednesday. Like, it wasn't he didn't pop as much on Wednesday. Not that he did anything wrong, but I really noticed him. I noticed Joshua Palmer more yesterday on Wednesday. But this is, I think, a point you're making, too, about just the pass catchers, right? Getting guys are out there. The two guys, if you could identify two guys on this football team going into this year who you said they really need to be on the field with Josh, getting reps and stacking good days, wouldn't we both say Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid? Like, wouldn't that be the answer? And I just think that's happening because of what you said. They're getting opportunity. They're out there, and I like how that's going. You're right. It is tough to kind of get an evaluation. It's tough to have these guys missing time with each other, getting that chemistry. It's not just with Josh. It's with the rest of the route runners, right? It's the guys knowing – when you run a route, when you're in a 3-4 wide receiver set and there's a guy next to you and you're running a route, those things matter too. It's not just Josh Allen throwing you the ball and the timing. It's where the guy on my right or my left is breaking off his route compared to what he sees with the DB who's guarding us and all those kinds of things. Those things matter. And it's not just wide receiver, by the way. They're going through this on the offensive line right now as well. I mean, suddenly Ryan Vandemark is a really important player here. They have Deion Dawkins missed practice yesterday. Remember when he left practice Tuesday with trainers, he was not out there yesterday. Sean McDermott said on Show Up with the Bulldog yesterday that Deion had a back flare-up, and they're hoping it gets better in the next 24, 48 hours and he can perform in Chicago, which is good news, but we'll see. So Deion's out. We know that Tylon Grable is out because he is in concussion protocol. He was the swing tackle last year who would normally fill in for Deion or Spencer Brown. And Spencer Brown, yes, he's been out there, but we know that he dealt with a back issue earlier. So, you just want to make sure that he's good. Well, suddenly now, Ryan Vandemark is thrust into a guy that's really important on this team. That's happening. So that's not just wide receiver. It's everywhere right now.
Yeah, and the depth being tested all over on offense, right, Sal? Because, with Cook sitting out a little bit, there's Davis getting first-team reps, here's Vandemark, the receivers. But we are still at a point, right, where everybody feels like they're tracking towards being ready for week 1, at least on that side of the ball.
Yeah, Joe, I think that's right. Maybe not Max Harrison, right? I know you're talking about offense, but just to kind of go through all the guys, right? Maybe not Max Harrison. That feels like it's something that's going to go in the regular season. Like, as I sit here right now, I have a suspicion, I don't know, that the Bills could put Max Harrison on the IR on that final cutdown day as one of those two guys they're allowed to come back. You know what I mean? So that would give him another 4 weeks where he doesn't have to be rushed, and they don't have to count a roster spot for him. So that could be something you do. You're right. Khalil Shakir, hopefully, excuse me, the boot is off, which is good. By the way, Max Harrison is off crutches, which is really good. And I think outside of them, maybe the other one is Cedric Van Pran-Granger. My other prediction is I would think at this point that Cedric Van Pran-Granger would just stay on the PUP list because then you don't have to put him on the 53. He can still come back after 4 weeks, and you can just transition him. As long as he doesn't actually practice between now and that day, they can just put him, just keep him on the PUP list. Then he doesn't count on your team for 4 weeks. So that's how all that works. Other than that, Joe, I think what you're saying is correct, which is it doesn't seem like there's anybody right now that really is going to miss week 1 unless something new were to happen. And that's obviously really good news. That includes the 2 safeties who did return to practice yesterday, which obviously is really good news for the team.
Yeah, and Sal, I feel like that's an important point to make because I'm sure you get people saying, new strength coach, what's happening with all the injuries. But the other side of that would be, sure, they're picking up their dings and their muscle, soft tissue stuff, but they're being cautious with these players.
Yes.
Like there's really no reason for these 9 players to be in there. Whereas if it's the playoffs, the divisional round, they might all be available. Maybe not all, but you know what I'm saying here is like they're making sure to just be safe here.
100% right. No doubt about it, right? Like, I mean, take Deion Dawkins, for example, right? I mean, remember Tuesday we had the story of Deion leaves practice, and then Elena Getzenberg and Matt Bove see him in the field house. Hey, you going to be okay? And he just kind of looked at him, he smiled, and he smirked, and he danced away. He doesn't practice the next day. Sean McDermott says he has a back flare-up. Let's just say if this is a really important game in December, is he practicing yesterday? I don't know the answer to that question, but it might be a little bit different than, hey, you know what? We're in week 2 of the preseason. You're our starting left tackle. You're a franchise left tackle. Make sure you're right. Like, let's just kind of get through the next couple of days here. Yes, I think you do have to approach these things a little bit different. It's no different than when people say managing Joey Bosa's reps, right, as the season goes on. It's the same thing. We're going to see that. There's going to be rest days for guys, and there's going to be times where there's times in games where, okay, you know what? Maybe you got a little lead here, late third quarter, early fourth quarter. You got a little lead, take a little bit off somebody's plate. A guy like Bosa, I'm saying here, right? Something like that. Those are things that happen throughout. So, yes, Jeremy, you're right. They're being cautious with everybody. But I'll go back to what Sean McDermott said when he spoke to us a couple days ago. It's time to start playing. It's time to get guys in the field. Yes, you have guys that are banged up and they're being cautious, but you need to see these guys at some point soon.
Joint practice with the Bears. They'll head off to Chicago. Sal, I wonder how it works, or if you know this, or have talked to anybody about this. The teams kind of get together. Do GMs arrange that? Do coaches get in on that? Because in Chicago, you'd have a new coach, and these relationships with joint practices, I know a lot of teams find them useful. How do these teams come to terms on what we're going to do, what's going to happen? Basically, how do they build a joint practice?
It's mainly the coaches. They get out of it what they want to get out of it, right? So in this case, I would say, and I'm not speaking for them and know exactly the communication because people have people who communicate for them sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But let's just say whether that's someone for Sean McDermott or someone for Ben Johnson or them two directly, they're going to come up with hey, here's what we'd like to accomplish. Here's what you'd like to accomplish. And then you say, how do we put this together? How long of a one-on-one period do we want to do with wide receivers and DBs? How much of a red zone period do we want to do? How much of a third down period do we want to do? All these can be totally different from practice to practice, from team to team. What Sean McDermott and his team needs to accomplish and see might be a little different than what Ben Johnson and his team needs to accomplish and see. And you mesh that together and you talk, and it's going to look like a normal practice for if you went out to St. John Fisher. So I know fans aren't going to be there. I'll be there. Media will be there. But it's not going to look any different other than you're going to get more live stuff, right? More guys going against each other a little bit more on these types of periods. That's what you want to see. So, yeah, that's how that comes together. I think the overall picture is the organization decides, and that's everybody, GM, presidents, everybody gets together like, where would this fit? Who's the best team to do this with? Let's trust the other coaches. McDermott and Beane have spoken many times about these, going back to 2019 when they went to Carolina. Remember that year, right? 2019, they go to Carolina. And Sean and Brandon made it very well known. Look, this doesn't work unless it's with somebody you trust. And in that case, it was Ron Rivera. Yeah. This doesn't work unless it's with an organization that is going to treat this right, and we're going out there to get things accomplished. We're not going out there to have fights every 5 minutes, right? Those kinds of things can happen, and Sean has spoken on that. Like, that's not productive for anybody. And then who did they do it with last year? Sean McDermott's former teammate, Mike Tomlin, right? I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, the Steelers are known as a pretty buttoned-up organization. They're going to try to make sure that they do everything right and get their work accomplished. I like your point, though, Jeremy, about this is a team at the Bears. Yes, Ryan Poles is from Canandaigua, right? He's the GM. But I don't know if there's like this personal relationship like there had been with these other two teams they've done. So this will be a little different from that regard.
Yeah, you kind of got to basically the genesis of my question is like, how did they just come to a relationship with the Bears on this to do? It might just be as simple as the preseason game is not scheduled for that. So you see the game and say, all right, It's a Sunday. Let's give them a call and see if they want to join practice.
You know what's funny though too is you're right about that, right? So I think the week 2 is the time that the Bills believe in doing this. They did this last year in week 2. The Bears did one last week with the Dolphins.
Yeah, right. They're doing 2 of them. Yeah,
and now they're doing another one, right?
And the Dolphins are doing
yes,
2
in a row.
They did the Lions.
So I think it's just every team is a little bit different. It's like there's no rhyme or reason. I'm thinking, okay, if I'm Ben Johnson, let me put myself in Ben Johnson's shoes. If you're a head coach, you are a new head coach of the Chicago Bears. You have Caleb Williams. You're installing a new offense. I think it's interesting that they're doing 2 straight instead of taking more time to kind of do their own thing and install. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're going head in. Like, let's go. We're going joint practice week 1, joint practice week 2. I find that super interesting. Whereas, like, to me, that would feel like a situation where you might not want to do that right away because you need to get all the stuff you need for your baseline stuff. But Ben Johnson's going, let's go drink out of the fire hose right away. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Quickly to wrap, Sal, it's the Bears tomorrow. And I brought up Tremaine Edmonds earlier because he's kind of unique. There's Gabe Davis, too, but there's so few examples of guys. Beane talking about draft, develop, re-sign, another one yesterday with Cook. And there's so few guys that doesn't happen with. Edmonds is one of the few where he's a first-round pick, and he ends up leaving. Do you remember, or what your perception is of kind of how that went down? Like, was it all about the money? Did you feel like the Bills weren't as motivated to bring him back? Because, again, like, looking back, his name's, like, top of the list, and it's not a very long list of guys that left.
So Edmonds specifically, Joe?
Yeah.
I think that was just simply I do specifically remember that year at the Combine. Like, coming out of the Combine, it was, Tremaine Edmonds is going to get paid. Like, someone's going to pay him a lot of money. And the Bills had just drafted Terrell Bernard the year before that. And it's like, okay, it's not going to be the Bills. Like, it just felt like I don't think there's any way the Bills are going to pay Tremaine Edmonds, considering what he's going to command, whatever that was going to be. And I wound up being the highest paid linebacker that year in free agency. But that was kind of something that percolated like right away. You're like, okay. So I do think it kind of became about the money in that situation. Do I think the Bills, could they have re-signed or wanted to sign Tremaine Edmonds if he said, hey, I really want to come back and I'll go home for a really low price? Sure. I mean, it's a question I wonder about James Cook, actually. It's funny. I don't know. I was thinking about this yesterday. Let's just go back a few months, right? Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, the Bills, we know they're motivated to bring James Cook back. They want to re-sign James Cook. That has been said, and I've said it many times. It was never about not wanting James Cook back. But let's just say James Cook went to the Bills in February or March and said, you know what, guys? Love being here. Love this team. But I really don't need to re-sign anything. I want to have the best year ever, and then I want to be a free agent and go to the highest bidder. Let's just say that happened. How motivated would the Bills be to go, no. We need to have you back. We're going to do this, right? I just think it's super interesting on how each side can look at things.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's the timing of it, right? Like, you're getting ahead of it by 1 year. Like, part of the Edmonds thing is, this timeline we're talking about is when he's up for a deal. I don't remember anything about the year before and whether they were going to pay him then. But
Edmonds? You're talking about Edmonds?
Yeah.
Remember, there was a 5th-year option in there, right? They picked up the 5th-year option after year 3. So they had him for 2 more years. He plays out year 4, and then he goes into that final year on his 5th-year option, and then he winds up leaving after that. So, I mean, look, he's one of the only guys. Like you said, Gabe Davis is another one. He wasn't a first-round pick, but for the most part, like the Bills, they have, I think, as much as any team in this league. I don't know. You'd have to show me another team that's done it as much as the Bills. They have adhered to their philosophy of draft, develop, and re-sign. That's what they've done.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. All right, Sal, we'll chat from Chicago next as the Bills head off to the Windy City to take on the Bears.
You got it, guys.